Hi, welcome back to Wizardry Squared. Today we're going to do some more exploring and look for the final level and boss, and I'm going to show off some more spells. I almost forgot to summon Fidel. And here I'm using the health spell, which is Sundew and Circa combined. Here I'm doing a new spell, so I'll show you that in a second. It definitely works really well. So as you can see here under Theta, I have Granda, Circa and Secanto. And basically what they do together is Granda selects NPC blocks, Circa selects a group of blocks in the same area as where you click, and Secanto makes it search out enemies nearby, so combined it's a great spell. And I found the doorway to level 19. But first I'm gonna try going to this dungeon and show off a few more of the spells. So here I'm using Flowzilla, which we already know that spell that makes the block float, and I'm also going to use a new spell which is Telekineso, and as you can see it's like sort of like a snake shape, and that makes the block follow my cursor wherever I move my cursor to. But make sure to uncharge by pressing X, otherwise you'll do what I did, which is waste a lot of squares. As you can see, the red block is still following my cursor, and make it look more difficult than it is, but it's actually much easier than the other way that I was doing it before. Now I'm just trying to find a blue block so I can get into the dungeon. The higher levels get a lot more difficult, so it's really handy having this spell saved. As you can see, this new spell is great for causing absolute chaos. Usually it would be advised to not stand on the thing that you're about to blow up. This is definitely the cheaper way to transport your blocks around the map. Ah yes, and you can just shoot these levers, which is an easy way to turn them. Now in this dungeon I'm using the Telekineso spell again, and I'm combining it with Granda because these are NPC blocks, so it won't work on its own. But what I did forget to do is put Flowzilla in, so I had to do Granda again and then Flowzilla, but you want to do it all as one spell. So with that combination it's actually really helpful, so if you do Granda, Telekineso and Flowzilla, you can get different blocks to follow your cursor and fly them around. So you can use it with the gold blocks on the levels that you need to get into the white bins. You can use it for like the puzzles. It's definitely a very helpful spell. But for me, it's also just as fun floating around on your blocks sometimes too. Now I'm making it over to level 19. This is another way that you can use telekinesis now. I use on the blue blocks or the red blocks to make them into flying weapons, and I can attack the squares while I'm hiding down below. Perhaps a bit slower than some of the other bomb methods, but I like it. Maybe it's a little bit cruel to the squares. It's probably a bit more of an expensive way to combine purple blocks, but you can do that if you so wish to do. Okay, so now I'm going to try out some other little spell combinations. So I'm using Flowzilla, you press Z to store it, and then I'm drawing Secanto, and you press Z to store that, and that makes a little flying block that will search out an enemy. I actually think you don't even need the Flowzilla on its own. I think if you just do Secanto, the box will just fly towards an enemy. And here I'm just testing out Explodey just to see how you can click on blocks and they'll explode. And I'm just gathering some blocks for my next experiment. And again, I'm using Explodey on some blocks near to an enemy, and it's another sneaky way to attack. Here I'm doing another combination, so I'm using Circa, which selects all the nearby blocks, and Secanto, which suits the enemy, and there we go. And the spell is called Transmuter, and this just turns blocks from breakable to unbreakable. So now I have an undestroyable block I can fly around on, and enemies can't destroy it, or if there's any puzzles and there's unbreakable blocks that I want to become breakable, I can use that spell combined with other spells. So yeah, that's another helpful spell. But this one is definitely my new favourite, Circa, Granda and Secanto. And briefly here I'm just using the True, and as you can see that just destroys blocks without damaging anything nearby. So that can be also helpful in puzzles and sticky situations. And here I found the final level, but first I'm gonna do a little bit of this dungeon. And now back to the dungeon. I just shoot the lever again because that's the easiest way. Here would be a good place that you could use the spell Detru for these NPC blocks, or you could also use Telekineso or something along those lines combined with Grander, because you need to have that spell for it to work, but I don't need to use it here as there's nothing in that metal container. And here again I'm using Grander and Telekineso and Flowzillo so that I can get the blue block onto the blue platform. I forget again to put Flowzillo onto this spell, which you should just do in one spell. And because there is the wind blowing, I also eventually have to use a side arrow spell so I can get the block to where it needs to be. But each time you do that, you need to do Grander first, otherwise you will just not be able to cast the spell on this type of block. And for the key, I'm just doing the traditional fly on blocks method. I also wanted to mention about equipment. When you're in your character menu and you can see what items you have, like pouch of more, etc. You can delete the extra items you have by pressing on the item and pressing X, and that will give you purple squares. Also, some of the rooms in the dungeons are sort of like trap rooms, so keep an eye out, they're not always worth trying to get into. And this time I'm using Telekineso, Grander and Flowzillo the right way, combining it as one spell to get the block to where I want it to go. And now we've finally made it to the final level where we're going to fight the boss to get to the next world. So I was trying to use my spell from earlier, the Grander Cercanto, in here on the blocks, and I think I was doing it wrong. I think I either needed to use Transmuter or there's another spell that would perhaps affect the blocks on a boss level. So I tried a different technique of getting these individual blocks to attack. I think the blocks are keeping me camouflaged because the boss doesn't seem to notice me underneath them. I gathered he was hiding somewhere at the top, so I'm gonna try seek him out. I think he may have actually got himself stuck on the metal ledges, so it kind of made it a bit easier for me to kill him. And there we go, I think I got him. Oh no, a tiny bit left. And we're done. Ah, a little square man has dropped from the sky, so we've got to interact with him. And this is how we get the new world seed to get onto the second world. So once we've killed him and we do the dialogue, we get the seed, and I'll show you how we get to the new world. So I'm heading back to base camp now, and when you get back there you can see that it's still on the first world. So what you actually want to do is go into the main menu, you go to settings, and here where you see world seed, you have to switch in there, and that will take you to the second world. And when I go back into the base camp, or I can go straight to the first level, you're in the second world now. So I'm going to go check that out. And when you're on the level to see that you're actually in the second world, you can see there's 2 balls underneath the amount of squares that you have, and that shows you the world seed basically. And as always, we must summon our friend Fidel because he will help us out along the way. And of course it's time to start destroying our enemies in the new world. But yeah, that's the end of this series. I've really enjoyed playing it. I hope you've liked watching it. If you'd like to play the game yourself, I've added the link in the description. Thanks for watching. Bye.